My name is Kelly Capato. I am the Executive Director with Together in Caring, and I oversee our Syracuse office.
I'm Lindsay Kratzer. I'm the owner and founder of Reflections Management and Care.
I'm Kimberly Peterson. I'm an aging life care professional with Aging Advocates.
I'm Eileen Welch. I'm a social worker and owner and care manager of Compassionate Care Management of CNY.
I'm Melissa Murphy, founder and CEO of Aging Advocates. Thank you so much, ladies, for being here today. We are celebrating Aging Life Care Month, and I can't think of a better way to celebrate than having a discussion with our local members of the association here in Central New York. So thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yay. So first, I would love to hear from all of you. How did you end up in this field? What inspired you to do this work that you're doing?
Yeah, I had some personal experience with my family, and it was really messy and ugly, and it was really hard to kind of navigate and figure some stuff out. And then as a social worker, started working with older adults, nursing homes, home care, VA, and then this really made sense as a transition for me personally to be able to just, help people any way I can while still operating within my license. Mm-hmm. And taking care of my family too.
That's awesome.
So as you guys likely know, I came from a background of senior housing where I found so often that the people I was helping, I wasn't always able to help them with the building that I was representing at the time. So it occurred to me that this isn't the stopping point. I can help them in a really true all-encompassing way by changing careers and becoming a aging life care professional. So now I feel like there's no stopping point. We can help people wherever they are.
It really came down to my grandparents. My grandparents were a huge influence growing up. I didn't realize it until my college years, but always going with them as they were caring for their grandparents. And then as they started to age and need some more assistance, whatever that looked like, I found it my passion to help others, so that's where I started.
So I started my career as a hospital care manager down in Orlando. I eventually transitioned into housing with to skilled nursing and assisted living. So that was the majority of my career up until this point. And I was really able to see a lot of sides of the healthcare system, a lot of sides of senior care, and just see what a lack of understanding and support that there is out there. I know we're going to talk a little bit about gaps in services, but this is kind of the profession in which I feel we can fill in those gaps in services. So seeing it from a few different angles has been helpful to lead me into this, and just having a full understanding of how important it is, our profession and what we're doing.
Absolutely. So starting as a hospital care manager, that's so interesting. What is the difference between a care manager in that type of a setting and the type of care management that we provide?
Yeah, so I love that question, right? Because we know we're constantly always explaining to people like what we do in care management, and people hear the word care management, but not necessarily in our context. So the big difference between like a hospital care manager versus what we do is that hospital care manager is there to take care of that acute problem, right? That discharge, to deal with those initial needs, get someone discharged, get them home, get them to their next step, rehab, and then that kind of ends, right? The hospital care managers do not follow the patients once they're discharged. There's really not a whole lot of room for follow-up and that type of thing. So what we do is a lot more all-encompassing, holistic, person-centered approach, and looking at it on a much more deeper level, and we're obviously following our clients through the entirety of their crisis or their lives sometimes. So.
I think being more proactive as well instead of reactive. In that hospital setting, it's more reactive. People are there because something happened. So with us aging life care professionals, we're trying to be proactive so these crises don't necessarily happen.
Absolutely.
I think the opportunities that I've had to partner with the case managers, or whatever the title might be in the hospital setting, has been really successful when they're working with us, because they are overwhelmed and unfortunately understaffed in so many of the hospitals and facilities in our area that I like those who are willing to partner with us and really like allow us to work together to help people, because it seems like things are more efficient. I think that the patient and client that we're assisting with together gets a better outcome.
Yeah, I think if I had a care manager that I was working with to discharge a lot of those patients to, it would feel, you know, you'd sleep a little better at night knowing that someone was there to take it from there. And that's what's missing oftentimes with the hospital discharges, is they do all this great work with what they're able to do, right? Because you mentioned being understaffed and maybe lack of resources, but then it's just kind of left and you're not really sure what happens, and that's when you have the revolving door in the hospital. And
Yeah, it's always nice when you see that light bulb go off in the professional and they really understand how we can help and that we can work together. So coming from that setting, how do you find it's most effective to illustrate how we work together? Because I know sometimes we come in and there's some resistance, like, wait a minute, are you going to create more work for me? Who are you working with? So how do we let them know that we are actually there to make everyone's job easier and everyone's life better, hopefully? Anyone?
I don't think it pertains necessarily to just hospitals. I think it's even communities or facilities. Bringing that awareness that we're not here to create more issues, we're here to work alongside of you and also have the ability to provide additional support, whatever that looks like. So it could be from as simple as a grocery task, or it could be as complicated as estate planning. You know, we're here to help guide to the proper referral sources.
Yeah, I think that spirit of collaboration is always really important, but I think it's super important to make it clear that I work for my client and I'm an advocate for my client, and sometimes that might mean that other people might not like me, and that's okay because I'm working for my client.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, we all consider ourselves to be advocates, right? So sometimes that means saying the hard thing or disagreeing or pushing back, especially in healthcare. I know we've had that come up at some of our local communities recently, and although it may be harder in that moment, we're finding that in the bigger picture, when that community knows that we are doing the right thing at the end of the day, even if it does create more work in that moment, that we are truly advocating, and not to make things more difficult, but for the best outcome, which is the best for the community as well, once they understand that. So
I think there's a lot of work to be done in just the education of what we do, right? And having social workers, discharge planners, whether it's in the hospital setting or in these community settings, just having an understanding of what it is that we're doing, because their lives are so busy, their work lives, right? And they're so understaffed and overwhelmed, and then you have another person coming in and they might not understand that we really are there to help and to advocate. So I think you know, it speaks to our profession in general and just getting the education out there and what we're doing. But I think that that's the first step, right? And getting out there and educating everyone that we're here and we can help, and this is how we can help you and your clients.
So in a nutshell, what is aging life care?
It's a hard question to answer.
I would say everything except. I feel like there's fewer exceptions than there are, you know, things that we actually do. You know, obviously as aging life care professionals, we're not as restricted, you know, as, you know, case managers due to insurance reasons or due to just confinement of their job description wherever they work. But we're out there, whether it's, you know, moving people, you know, locally or across the country, or it's getting the resources that enable the independence. There's so many things that we do. And there's situations, I think, continuously that we might encounter, but we come up with those creative solutions, and it's very individualized.
Yeah, always trying to help our client reach their goals, right? Like our goals are their goals.
So it doesn't ever look the same for two people.
Right, yeah.
No, I think that the value, one of the big values that I always feel I hope to bring to people is to help them feel informed and empowered, so that they don't feel so lost in a situation that they maybe expected, maybe more often probably didn't expect to happen. And the time that we're spending out in the field and learning about the resources and knowing the right people and knowing what the regulations are, to be able to just give them a clear path to what is going to be a more successful, hopefully better life.
I think that's huge, is the resources, because so many folks that we all help are not necessarily aware of all of the resources and entitlements that they might benefit from, or there's just so much that goes into our work to make sure they have the best life.
Yeah, that expert guidance is what I think we are really able to offer people. This healthcare world is so confusing, it's complex, it's difficult, I would say impossible to manage, especially if you're not immersed within it. And our teams have social workers and nurses who have been doing this for years and years and years, and they're truly the experts in this field. And that's really what you need when you're navigating these types of things. The system was not meant to be user-friendly, unfortunately, our healthcare system. It's always changing. It's very difficult to navigate, and having individuals with years and years of experience in different areas of the field who have lived it and walked families through it, I just think it's invaluable. And I really hope that that message gets conveyed in what we're discussing today, right, is that we are the experts in this really confusing, tough field of aging.
I always tell people it does not matter your education level, your intelligence. This system is not intuitive. It's not you.
Exactly.
It's the system.
Absolutely.
So speaking of the healthcare system, what are some gaps in services that you are seeing or changes right now in the healthcare system that folks should really be paying attention to and aware of?
I think a huge piece of what we are doing is the coordination of everything. This is a huge gap within the healthcare system. Everyone is kind of working within their own specialty and their own silos and treating their own problems, and we're challenged with putting all of those pieces together and making sure that it functions properly in the context of what our clients need. So I think we're filling in all of those gaps, right, with care coordination and oversight and advocacy. That's where I see.
I think we're trying to bridge gaps too.
Absolutely.
And that's huge. There's so many resources out there, but there's certain populations that might not be able to afford services, or they don't qualify for services. So putting our thinking caps on and being creative with the resources that we have, and trying to at least get some type of assistance to folks that might not necessarily know about us or have the ability to afford us is very important.
I echo all of that. Really, yeah, no kidding. I mean, I just think that it's difficult because there aren't enough people that have all of the information, and the people who work for offices and facilities, they are not allotted the time to go and learn, right? So unless people are going to them with information being presented, which is lovely on paper, but not always tangible, and you can't have that same, is what's being presented to me truly accurate? They're left to that as much as they're able to share with other people. So I think that we have the advantage of being able to go and see in real life how things are going, what's really happening, what type of support. Just because someone has a license to do something doesn't mean that they can safely do something. So I think that boots on the ground and really being able to see what's happening and being able to communicate that to the people who are asking about it is a huge advantage for what we're able to do for people.
So based on what you've learned so far in your careers in aging life care, what is the biggest piece of advice you would give to somebody entering into this time in their lives, or for a family member navigating care?
If you're thinking about help, you need the help now. Definitely pick up the phone and call. It might be a simple answer, or it might be something that is a little bit more complicated, but definitely reach out, because we can provide that additional help and maybe clarity to help yourself or a loved one.
Yeah, plan ahead.
Yeah.
Even something as simple as advance directives, putting your wishes in writing,
So important.
directing a healthcare proxy, having those difficult conversations like we've been talking about, getting some help with having those hard conversations, especially if someone does have a diagnosis already with a serious illness. It doesn't necessarily have to be terminal, but just be thinking ahead. It's so hard for us in this society. We don't like death and dying. We don't like aging.
Right.
We just
It's
don't.
easy for us to sit here and say,
Yes,
plan ahead
yes.
for your aging journey.
Yeah,
but-
I mean, these are such hard
Yeah.
conversations to have. They're such hard things for people to think about. But ultimately, if someone wants to, do their best to age well, have their wishes fulfilled, someone needs to know what they want and what that looks like.
Right, it's almost as if you're able to maintain more independence and control if you are proactive.
Yes.
I think the control is huge. Yes, because no one wants a crisis to happen and not have the choices they thought they had because of not properly planning ahead.
I think there's a lot of fear in that conversation though. I think that there's a sense of I'm losing independence because I'm admitting that I might need help, whether it's now or in the future. I think I have that conversation a lot with people. But it's really, it is more empowering. You can do more if you plan, but it's a scary thing, and I think there's a threat to admitting that for some folks. And I've heard many more times that they wish that they had started things sooner, planning sooner. And I don't know if I've ever heard someone say, oh, I wish I waited to do this, right? I mean, but that's a really big obstacle, I think, for people to just get to the point where they're open to actually reaching out for help.
And I think it's important for people to know that they always have a choice, whether they plan ahead or whether they don't. They still get to make their own choices and have self-determination. Because I think that's part of what's scary, is that people think their choices will be taken away.
Yep, I think that's where an advocate sometimes can be really valuable, because sometimes you will hear, no, you can't, or this is your only choice, and that might not always be the case.
I think usually it's not.
Usually it's not. That's right. Okay, so aging life care, we are all in this field because we love it. What is something you might tell somebody who's interested in joining our field?
It's hard work, super hard work, super busy. Every day is completely different. I never look at a calendar in the morning and then did I say, oh yeah, that's what I thought it was going to be. It's not, but it's like incredibly rewarding. I've never been, it's not thankless. I think people thank me more doing this than any other career or job I've ever had. So it feels really good.
I have to completely agree. There's nothing more than having a client or a family member just thank you and see the relief that it provides everybody. That's what makes this profession just so valuable and rewarding. You might have a very tough, chaotic day, but at the end, when you hear those thank yous and see clients succeed with whatever their goals are, that's extremely motivating.
Yeah, anyone considering joining the field, I would say do it. Just what you guys said, it's so rewarding to actually be able to lay down at night when we finally do get to lay down and know that you can rest well, that you've done a good job. You're never going to regret going into a field where you do the right thing every single day. And I think that in itself is invaluable. It's just being able to feel good about what you're doing, know that you're making a difference, and to be surrounded by other people who have that same idea, right? This field can feel a little niche and a little lonely, and we're out here and there's so much work to be done, but knowing that we have ALCA and this organization of support is huge, because it's kind of like our little therapy within what we're doing, because no one really understands what we're doing and us doing it.
And our demand is not going anywhere anytime soon. The population is aging, so we know there's going to be an even greater need for our services and a need for creativity in a really unknown climate of what services will be available. I think it's important to know who to go to for the resources. So I'm so grateful for our organization, and I hope more people are looking to join it so that we can keep doing the amazing work we do and help people age well.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's space for everyone, and there's so much more work to be done. We've made such good progress, but it only benefits our community and our families to have more of us out there.
Go Alka.
Well done, yeah.